to hear your questions. Again, at meetkathywilliams.com. So a little bit about me. I've had this show for about 6 months now, but I've been on the radio for almost 4 years. I can't believe the time that goes by. And I'm the mother of two boys. And sometimes I've definitely found it easier to go with the flow, and sometimes I've really tried to control outcome, and sometimes a little bit of balance between both. And honestly, I grew up in the Midwest and kind of always tried to be a nice girl, right? The good girl, the nice girl. And so sometimes my journey about going with the flow was really to please others, right? Oh, I'll just go along with whatever's going on. Yet if you're on a river and going with the flow means you're headed toward a waterfall, that might not be the best situation. So I know a lot of us do that, trying to please others by just going along with what's going on. So and then other times we're really trying to control outcomes. So how can we know when to go with the flow and when that's going to create something that's greater for us and those we love, and when to maybe draw in the reins a little bit or exert our opinion, and what are the situations in which we tend to just give the reins to someone else. So I'm gonna just pause for a moment and let everybody reflect on, like, are there times in my life when or people I tend to just try to please by going along with what they're doing. And for me, I know sometimes with family, like with extended family, sometimes that's the easier way to go. And sometimes I end up feeling disappointed by, oh goodness, the whole family was up and ready to go at like noon when I was awake at 7 and could have gotten something accomplished or gone. Like I remember this time in Argentina when I was there with my family, and my mom was trying to figure out, like, okay, what time to go visit the waterfall. There's this glorious waterfall called Iguazu Falls. It's like the Niagara Falls of South America. It sort of spans between Brazil and Argentina. And if you have I think you need a visa, maybe not, to go to Brazil. And so if you have one of those, you can go to the Brazilian side. I didn't go to that side, but some of my family members did. So we were, asking a lot of questions about when do we go to this waterfall, and my mom was kind of trying to assess, like, what direction is the water facing, and what direction will be the sun be in the early morning, where will it be shining from, midday, or all of these different factors to try to control or try to figure out when is the best time for us to go visit this waterfall. So she did, and she took a long time to do that, and we were just kind of like, let's leave the house, let's get out of here, we want to go do things in Argentina. And by the time we went to the waterfall, it was raining, right? And so here we are in these little rafts at the bottom of the waterfall in the rain. And we have pictures of us with these helmets on in the rain. And it's like, okay, like, where can we just trust that life is going to present the best thing, and we can just go and not try to figure things out so much? I mean, even if I'm sitting there with my mom trying to figure things out, like, can I relax into that instead of resisting it? So there's a lot that goes into this idea of going with the flow, like being present in the moment without resistance is going with the flow. It's like receiving life as it is, not rejecting or pushing against life as it is showing up. And then there's the other element of, what if we said, hey, Mom, what if we just go? Like, what if we just go to the waterfall and if we don't like what we're seeing, we could stay longer and then see it with different light. So exerting your opinion versus going along with someone else's opinion or point of view. And the other day I was sitting with a friend in Chicago and kind of talking about the idea of nice versus kind. And nice and kind are two very different energies. Right? When we're trying to be nice, so often it fits into that category of like trying to do things right, trying to please people. And kind has a totally different energy because so often nice doesn't include you. Right? Whereas kindness includes both the other person and you. Right? So sometimes when we're going with the flow in terms of like, oh, I'm just going along with the program because that's what other people expect, that actually doesn't include you. Right? And then if we do that long enough, sometimes maybe you even know people who have been in a marriage and they just got married because that was what was expected of them, and they stayed in the marriage because that's what was expected of them, and that wasn't going to rock the boat. If we do that sort of thing long enough, often it builds up and breeds resentment. So if we're willing to really get intimate with ourselves and like, okay, where am I going with the flow because I've decided that's just the easiest thing to do, instead of really including myself. And that doesn't have to be a mean thing to do when you're including yourself, right? It could just be exerting your opinion. It could be just, oh, hey guys, I'd love to be back by 3:00 in order to listen to this program, or in order to, have a moment to myself, or whatever it is. Not abandoning what is nurturing for you or important to you in favor of everybody else. And I think as parents, sometimes it's easy to get into that, like, oh, this is just the easiest thing for my entire family, but not for me. When my oldest son was 3 years old, I had kind of concluded that there was a really good preschool for him, but it wasn't on my side of the island. Where I live is Maui. And so I didn't even venture to look at like, well, is there a good preschool? And even if there isn't one that's quite as good as the one he's in, like, is there one on our side of the island that would give me a much, much shorter commute? The other preschool was maybe 40 minutes away. So I would do a morning drive 2 and then later 3 times a week of 40 minutes, which was great for him because he would nap on the way, but it wasn't really great for me. And so can we include ourselves in whatever we're doing such that it works for you? Let's say if you're doing a commute like that, maybe listening to audiobooks, or maybe looking at like, well, is there something that could actually work better? And a lot of times, like, when we think we've got a good thing, we don't even start to ask questions about, well, is there something that could actually work better? And part of that might come from I run into this a lot with clients. People talk about, well, I don't want to be selfish, or I don't want to be greedy, or I don't want to, and it's like, what if you put all that aside and just asked the question and got really curious? Because that quality of curiosity is not greedy. It's just an exploratory energy. And if I had been willing to ask the question and have that energy, I would have found there was actually an amazing preschool right in my neighborhood. All right. So when something is good, often we settle and we just keep doing it. And instead of like starting to explore, well, what if there was something this good and was closer? Or what if there's something that's even better or that would work better for me? And what would work for all of us? Okay? So getting curious, especially the last question, like what would work for all of us? Because sometimes I think we see two options: go with the program or kind of upset and offend people. And those aren't necessarily like an either or thing, right? It could be you don't go with the program and it doesn't upset or offend people. And for me, one of the things that was really useful in regard to this is like really looking at where I'm not willing to speak my voice or speak what's important to me. And I'll even give you an example of something that was going on the other day. Because I recognized in myself, like when I'm having a good time and when I'm out with friends, I don't actually want to leave, right? And I also don't want to put limitations on the time that we're together, but I also don't want to voice like, "Hey guys, I have to go." Right? There's somewhere I need to be at 7 p.m. Which is funny because it's a small thing, right? And if they're really your friends, they'll be like, "Okay, cool, we'll get this done by 7 p.m." And so I started to look at like, well, what is my hang up in regard to just letting people know, right? When we are clear, it helps others be clear. When we're clear, it actually makes others more confident because they know what to sort of expect and we do too. So where am I unwilling to be clear? And how much could that actually help life flow with more ease if I were just really willing to be clear? And I recognize that part of the hesitation of bringing in that piece of clarity was my mom used to like leave lists for her cleaning ladies, like do this, do this, do this, do this. And so when I got a cleaning lady, I didn't leave her a list because I didn't want to be controlling like that. And I interpreted that whole list idea as being controlling instead of being really clear. And how much could being really clear add to my life and create ease for both the other person and for me? I didn't want to be that, quote, mean, controlling person. And so I, in a way, had confused clarity with control. So if you do that, everywhere you confuse clarity with control, will you collapse all that back to energy? Yeah. And would you be willing to have other people consider you controlling or judge you as controlling, even if it's just that you're being clear? Yeah. So I love journaling. I'm a huge fan of journaling because journaling helps me be really vulnerable with myself and kind of explore what's going up in what's going on in my world. Where could I have more integrity with myself? Where could I be more vulnerable with myself or with others? Where am I unwilling to receive? And where am I unwilling to like exert control, exert clarity, exert whatever? And so if you find yourself continuing to kind of go along with other people's programs instead of making what's important to you really clear, maybe exploring, well, what would work for all of us as a question? And anytime we ask a question, we're sort of shining the flashlight of our awareness in that direction. So it always brings, it kind of percolates new ideas to the surface, even if they don't come right away. That's the direction you're putting your awareness, and new things always come to light. So I know we're going to go to break here in a moment. We have a new direction to go. I would love to invite you to meetkathywilliams.com and head on over there for a free money rain exercise. Kathy has a K, and we'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone.